Hello, and welcome to the Simply Business Interview Podcast, a podcast created by business owners for business owners. I am your host, John Jennings. And I believe that most business owners are working way too hard for much too little. And one of our issues is that we overcomplexify things. I believe the answers are almost always within us or within our reach. I like to say that I'm a simple man with simple ideas. So welcome to Simply Business. All right, today we are joined by Lindsey Paulson, who is the COO of Mulberry Builders. Lindsey, thank you so much for being with us. I'm looking forward to hearing more about your story. Why don't you kick us off with just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Lindsey Paulson, like he said. I am the COO of Mulberry Builders. So we are actually a construction company out of Lexington, Kentucky. We offer 6 different divisions that you could potentially work with us. So new construction, remodel, restoration, roofing, and then commercial. So I oversee all of those 6 divisions, and we have a sales and marketing team. So I operationally kind of worked systems that we have created to make sure that all of those are efficiently running on the day-to-day.
Cool. And tell us a little about your background, because I'm not going to pick on you. You're obviously a young COO, which is obviously interesting. I want to hear a little of your story. You went to a great school, go Colonels.
Yes, go
We
Colonels.
share that in common, a few decades apart. But anyway, tell us a little bit about how you came about being the COO of this construction company.
Yeah. So it's funny because my degree from the Colonels, it's nothing that I wanted to ended up doing actually. So I didn't go to school for business. I did dabble into some organizational psychology there, but my undergrad, I thought I wanted to go into mental health trauma. I did
Wow.
not want to go into that at all after I dove into it. It was a brief stint, which I realized, bless those people, I'm not cut out for. So I actually started working for Marriott International, the hotel chain. And I started there at the front desk. So just checking in people, checking out people, became an operations manager. So was able to dabble into running multiple different departments, working with housekeeping, working with sales and accounting, and kind of learned all of my accounting and functioning, just all the organizational pieces that I learned there. So they are heavily structured with processes, and that's kind of where I found my love for everything is the checklist, the CRMs. Once I left Marriott, I actually opened the downtown Lexington City Center. Had a great team there. We grew that, and then
Beautiful
COVID
place.
happened.
Yeah. Beautiful place. Yeah.
So I got to be on the opening team there. Loved it. Loved the staff. Loved everything about it. But we hired everyone. COVID happened. We shut down, and we had to let everyone go. So it was an emotional roller coaster. And then after that, my husband works for the Lexington Fire Department, and he knew that Mr. Mulberry had an opening for an office manager. That construction company, they were heavily growing at a rapid pace, and they needed somebody to kind of come in and do the admin. So I came in and started answering the phones and started kind of taking my corporate knowledge and dabbling that into the lay of the land for construction. There was a ton that was really, really strong. We had a lot of strong processes for the construction side, but for the admin side, there wasn't a whole lot. And finally, I just went, we laugh about this today, but I went to his office and I said, okay, so here's what we're going to do. And I just started laying out everything of all the new plans and ideas that he said. And he said, great, roll with it. That was 3 years ago. We had 4 of us on staff, and we have 18 officially today. So we got our CRM and everything in line, and quickly through that transition, I was promoted to COO and kind of given the keys to the castle, so to speak. And that is our normal day to day.
So you've even though you're not the owner or the founder per se, you've been there since early days, and you've seen this 400% increase in growth in the organization. So that's fascinating, and so congratulations
Yes,
on
thank
a
you.
rapid rise and rapid growth. So during that time, what's been some of the growing pains that you've gone through as either you personally or the organization that where you've struggled?
I think the biggest growing pain for us was, or has been for us, and still even to this day, is trying to put the right people in the right places of the organization. So that is where I do think, not to brag, but I kind of excel with that knowledge of organizational psychology, because there's so many different personality types. And somebody who is obviously somebody in production, I laugh because my production team is so good at production. But if they have to write a report or remember their Apple ID password, it's not happening.
Right.
So I putting the key players where they need to go, but understanding that their weaknesses might be another strength. So we actually hired a director of admin. She is super on top of it, and she is able to keep all of their daily reports and notes and logs and things in line for them, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel and learn some of the administration stuff that they might not excel at. And so having that understanding that everyone's weaknesses and strengths are so different, but kind of using that to our benefit to create the puzzle has always been probably my hardest challenge. But once it gets into place, that's where the biggest growth happens for us.
Yeah. So I think that's a great thing for people to listen to and learn that a lot of small companies are afraid to grow, and so they plug people one size fits all into a role. Maybe they like the person, uh, but they end up putting them in the wrong seat. So we
Yes.
talk about you have to have the right people, and then the right people have to be in the right seat. So you have to really be careful not to get into that trap of obviously you don't want a wrong person. That's a bad
Yeah.
thing. Even a right person in the wrong seat can could be a problem. Do you use tools to help you figure that out? Is it your gut? Is there assessments you do? You have a process?
We don't really have a process. I have a coach that I had worked with in the past that went over the DISC personality test,
Yeah.
and kind of helped me understand the ins and outs of that, and even just people with that test and talking to the employee. Most of
Yeah.
them will tell you and be able and be self-aware enough to say, admin is my strength. Oh my gosh, don't put me in front of a spreadsheet. I'll never figure it out. Like they can say, I can really help you here, but over here, I'm struggling. And we do a lot of check-ins. So we do a lot of one-to-ones as far as helping if there's a project that's happening and I meet with marketing and they say, we really can't figure out X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, what are we going to do to combat this issue? Or sales says, you know, or production says, I can't, this document is all mismatched. Well, the way that the director of admin's brain organized it, that might not thrive for them, or it could be in the wrong order for execution for them. So a lot of one-to-ones to figure out what they need, and just hearing them, that way we can execute that on the back end.
So one-to-ones are key. What's your flow of like meetings and stuff? I see this when I work with uh, any kind of company that's in that size of they're not a big corporation yet, but you're past 10 people. I always say once you get past 10 people, it's no longer uh, under 10 is like a family gathering, right?
Yes.
But once you get past 10, now you got too many personalities, you got all kinds of things, and there's going to be a communication breakdown. So
Yes.
COO, I know one of your most important roles is to make sure everybody is in line. So kind of what's your weekly rhythm for meetings or for one-on-ones and things like that?
Yeah. So Monday, we have a reoccurring Monday. It's all team members, and it's
Yeah.
the one meeting that it's not the optional meeting. It's the everybody shows up and here's what we're doing meeting. We
Yeah.
talk about all the projects, any issues, anything that anybody's run into during the week, and we sit down collectively and we brainstorm. After the Monday meeting, it is up to
How long does that meeting go?
we try to keep it between an hour to an hour and a half. just to be
Yeah.
respectful of the time, and because all of our guys are like itching to get out on job
Right.
site.
Yeah. I always say 90 minutes should be the max for any meetings. Kind of my
Yes,
philosophy.
yes. Well, phones start ringing, people are eyes glazed over. I have a very small amount of time to execute a lot of information.
Right.
But mainly too, it's also the owners are in that meeting, so they hear all of the information for the week. So it's pretty, we try to stay on pace with that. But after that, it's the department head's responsibility to meet with anyone who reports to them in a one-to-one. And then if there is an issue, then they take it up to the next person above. But most of anyone that's in a management or leadership role, 9 times out of 10, they can resolve the issue themselves, unless it's just something absolutely catastrophic, which we haven't really run into yet. So let's knock on wood. But
Knock on wood. Don't jinx it.
Yes, but they are responsible for meeting with their team and seeing what their needs are.
Yeah. So since you were handed the keys to the kingdom, as you said, what's been the biggest surprise for you when you kind of got into this role? You're very much running the ship, sounds like.
The biggest surprise to me, probably, gosh, I think probably the biggest surprise to me is just working through understanding production enough. Like, I couldn't build you a house today by myself, but I have to understand enough in each division to be able to speak to someone or speak to a client confidently. So having to be able to do my strengths and weaknesses, but also know that I don't have a lot of room for margin on production, because you can't really make up the rules of codes and everything. They're going to know if you are bluffing. So the surprise for me is if something is reaching me, typically that's not great. So nobody comes to talk to me for fun. It's all because something has exploded. So we are trying to work through just my production knowledge. So that's been kind of the hardest thing for me to learn separately, because it's not something that I've ever been familiar with. I did a lot of property maintenance and property management previously. So the biggest prize was my lack of knowledge, I think, when transitioning and being the lead communicator if something goes awry.
Yeah. Well, that actually leads to one of the questions I like to ask is, every business is rapidly changing now. I mean, we're in a state of more rapid change than we've ever seen. So you didn't even have really much background in this industry, and then, dealing with a lot of things, growth and all sorts of things. So how do you stay abreast of things? What's been your strategy for for just becoming knowledgeable and I'm just going to be blunt here. I tend to be. You're also in a male dominated industry.
Yes.
And I know from working with some I've worked with females in construction before who get really frustrated with that. So you're young, you don't have a lot of experience. I mean, you got a lot of things going against you, but you seem to be wildly successful. So
yes,
what's the secret?
I'm not offended by that in the slightest. And I think that's probably the secret, is not taking it personal.
Yeah.
I understand that I am younger. I understand that I'm not the strongest, or I'm not the smartest person on the job site. I know that. I lean heavily on our production managers and their knowledge to be able to communicate or explain or provide me with options, cost effective options at that, if something was to go awry. In this industry, though, I have been pleasantly surprised, just my experience there. You always have a few people, but I have been pleasantly surprised of the people who, communicate effectively and don't belittle me as far as being a female in the industry. We've had a lot of good superintendents, a lot of production managers, a lot of site supervisors, laborers who will call me with an issue, and if I don't know the answer, I'm okay to find out. So just not ever becoming offended, but willing to take that feedback or do the research to get them the answer that they need.
That's awesome. And I think that's great advice for people, regardless of your age or gender. Just we are in a hyper uh, I don't know, sensitive world. Seems like these days people
Hmm.
get people get offended really, really fast. And so that's some great advice.
Well,
A
also
lot of wit.
education. There's tons of education out there. Like, I'm not even kidding you. There's construction for dummies. And when I say that, I had to start at the absolute basics and build the knowledge.
Yeah,
Builders Exchange hosts tons of educational courses on plan reading,
right.
electrical plans, all of that. So just being open and willing to learn and have whatever knowledge that you do have. I mean, it goes a long way if you're willing to learn the topic and kind of become a subject matter expert, because I don't have to be that in production. My team does. I'm not going to be on your job site building your house. You probably don't want me to be, but you want somebody who's competent, and that's who I have. Is I have a competent team who's able to execute as the subject matter experts. So I don't have to know it all, and I can help with the back end day-to-day items.
Cool. So let's give Mulberry a chance to get a little about them. What's your specialty? What sets you all apart from other construction companies?
Um, so I definitely think it's the craftsmanship. We have a lot of pride in the craftsmanship that we create. We have in-house design team, so they will actually create 3D renders and create your virtual home before we even start production. So a lot of builders in our area will take you to a showroom or,
Right.
allow you to pick out these items, but seeing the whole picture is kind of a something that we bring to the table with our in-house team. Um, and I think the second thing is that we provide a ton of 501c3 work. So we build the St. Jude Dream Home completely complimentary in the Lexington, Kentucky area. They raffle that off every year, and all the proceeds
Wow.
go to St. Jude. So that has been a huge way to give back to our community. And then we're
Yeah.
also doing the Redeeming Hope first human trafficking home in Kentucky, and that will be in Berea. So just taking all the blessings that we've had and being able to kind of lead and guide that through our trade is something that I think sets us apart from most of the builders in the area.
That's awesome. That's a great purpose that you're working on there too. I
Yeah.
appreciate that very much. Just last question: if you could wave a magic wand and say, a year from now, what's going to be different? Where are you going next? What's the dreams?
Hopefully I'm on a beach taking a nap somewhere, but if that doesn't work out, I think it will be to expand, I mean, just every division for continue that growth. At some point, I know the Mulberries are planning on, he is interested in becoming a developer and developing a whole subdivision. That's something we've not dabbled in. We carry a lot of um, spec home builds and things like that in different cities, but he's never developed a whole neighborhood. So
Right.
if we wave the magic wand, I see developments in the future, more commercial, continuing to grow out into the commercial market a little bit more, and then expanding probably the roofing division. There's a lot of roofing in this area.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly sure that all of them are licensed, but there's a lot of roofing companies in
There.
this area.
But usually you can find a lot more if when these storms blow through.
Yes, yes. So any storm that comes through, storm chasers come, but they
Yeah.
don't stick around long enough to really help you. So being a local resource for even that division would be great.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Certainly a fascinating story. Look forward to getting to know you better. Uh, if people want to find out about Mulberry or they want to connect with you, how best to do that?
Yeah, so if you are interested in learning more about Mulberry, you can just head to the website. It's www.mulberry-builders.com. It'll also show you all of our spec plans, but also about the St. Jude Dream Home. So giving back to that charity, you can buy tickets on the website. They actually went on sale yesterday. And then for me personally, I am on Facebook, Instagram, but LinkedIn is probably the best. So you'll be
Right.
able to search Lindsay Paulson, and if you're on my profile, it'll show Mulberry Builders.
Cool. And I'll make sure to add those links, especially your website link, when we post the podcast here in a few weeks.
So
Okay,
thank you again
perfect.
for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I appreciate the stories that you had to share.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked it, please share or like it on whatever platform you use. You can find me on social media. On most platforms, I'm John K. Jennings. My first book is also available. Your Baby is Ugly tells you about 10 truths that business owners need to hear, but often won't, and how to overcome them. You can find it on Amazon. Just search for Your Baby is Ugly. And be watching for our next episode, where I'll interview another business owner who will share their stories and insights into what it's like to create a great business.